Welcome to Let's Talk Higher Ed Careers, a podcast from Herc Jobs. I'm Jennifer O'Neill, Director of Programs and Research at the Higher Education Recruitment Consortium, also known as Herc. This show is designed to help you explore, launch, and grow a career in higher education. Our guest today is Alicia Simon, a higher education leader with more than 20 years of experience spanning teaching, student services, faculty affairs, community engagement, and dual career programs. She currently leads dual career initiatives at the University of Michigan, helping faculty partners and families navigate career transitions and connect with opportunities. Alicia also serves as the vice chair of Herc's National Governance Board and co-chairs Herc's Dual Career Committee. As both a higher education professional and a dual career partner herself, she brings valuable professional expertise and personal perspective to today's conversation. We're excited to welcome Alicia and hear more about her career journey.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Hi. So we're going to start out with an easy one today. Tell us a little bit about your role and where you work.
Sure. So my name is Alicia Simon, and I am the dual career coordinator in the Office of the Provost at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And in my role, I work with partners and spouses of primarily our tenure track faculty members as they're working to make a successful transition to our community. And for many people, that involves primarily job seeking and research. But it can also involve other aspects of making a successful move, like learning about community resources and neighborhoods and commute times and where do I get that special item from a grocery store. So I like to say that there's no silly question. What's important to you and to your family might be unique. And so we try to help the whole person as they're making a move to our community.
That's great. So you yourself are a dual career partner. Can you tell us
That's
about your
absolutely
career
right.
path and how you ended up here?
So, like many dual career partners that I work with, I've had a couple of different roles at different institutions. It wasn't necessarily a linear trajectory. I didn't start off my career thinking, oh, dual career, that's exactly what I want to work in. But it sort of morphed into my career trajectory morphed into that space as I learned more about dual career services and thought about where my skills and strengths are. So I'd say a through line in all the different jobs that I've had is helping people with transitions. So early on, actually, my background is in studio art. So I was doing traditional things like classroom teaching or working in galleries at camp on campuses. But then eventually I got involved at the University of Maryland with their first year experience program. And I was teaching some first year experience classes and really liked the work of trying to help first year students make that transition to college and think about what their interests are, whether that's career-wise or academic, how to, again, navigate a campus and understand where they would fit best. And because of my husband's work, we left Maryland, moved to Nevada, and at UNLV, I worked on leading the first year experience program for their College of Sciences. So I went from the arts to the sciences, but again, the consistent theme was helping people with transitions and working, in this case, with first year students. And so that was a really exciting opportunity. It was a different demographic of students than I had worked with at Maryland, a lot of first generation students, a lot of students that were in many ways undecided about what they wanted their future to look like. And so it was a great opportunity to really think about what tools and skills and experiences they needed to be successful and how to help them develop those. And then we left Nevada and ended up here in Michigan. And so I didn't actually initially start here at the University of Michigan when we made our transition to the area. But when an opportunity became available in dual career, it was something I was familiar with. I understood the concept of having to move to a new place, what that involved. Um, and sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly of that experience. I think for a lot of people, there's opportunity in change, but of course, there's also a lot of anxiety in change. And for people who are professionals, it can be very disruptive to what your plans and what you perceive your career path to be when you're changing locations and institutions and worried about your family's successful transition and your spouse's success at their new institution. And so there are so many facets and factors to that. I felt I could bring some real authenticity to that space.
I love that. So if somebody wanted to grow, or if somebody is in a position where they're working with dual career partners, what
Mhm.
should they focus on learning or doing? Are there specific credentials or particular trainings that really kind of help you do the work that you do every day?
That's so interesting. I would say that I think what I can bring to this work is sort of my lived experience and some of my teaching and my experience on higher education, working in higher education institutions at different levels, whether that's again in the classroom or in different aspects of leadership and administration. I have different perspectives on how universities function. However, I don't think there's any training or credential or like there's no graduate degree in dual career coaching, right? Like it's not a thing. And it's a little bit more amorphous than career coaching. It's not really helping people with just career. There are more facets to it than that, I think, as we talked about. And so it's really having a lot of empathy and understanding, but also having the capacity to be kind of real with people and help them set their expectations. I think that ultimately becomes the most important work in dual career is helping people, both your dual career clients as well as your on-campus clients. So the units that you're representing, whether that's your provost office or deans, directors, schools, colleges, departments, search chairs, all these different people may have different expectations of how this process is going to go. And the work of the dual career office is really to help um, set realistic expectations and boundaries on that process, as well as making sure that there's good communication. I think when there's frustration in the dual career space, it often comes down to misunderstandings, miscommunications, or in a misalignment of expectations. And so I kind of think of my work as almost concierge work, right? Like we're just trying to keep everybody mostly happy most of the time. And that's sort of one of the big goals, I think, is helping people make good decisions. And it's not always easy to make good decisions.
Yeah, especially in a new place. That's a hugely valuable role. You're a hugely valuable resource for people who are coming in, recruitment, right? Recruitment, retention, all of these things kind of loop back to the types of things that your role touches. You talk a little bit about people having different expectations. So with dual career, because one thing we know at Herc is that everybody has kind of a different idea of what dual career looks like on their campus. What are
Right.
some misconceptions that people come to you with, or maybe what are some of the things that you have to really make sure you communicate clearly in order to be effective in your role?
Oh boy, I've got a laundry list of those, but let's try. I think that one thing that is really difficult in dual career work is that the person who the university is hoping to recruit or retain is a separate person, and their career is a separate career from that of the dual career partner. And one of the biggest challenges and misconceptions is that there is the perception that those two things are very intertwined. And that a dual career partner may feel like, oh, this my spouse who you're trying to hire is so important and so wonderful that if you don't do something magical for me, that means you really don't have a commitment to my partner or vice versa. You know, there's this idea that these two careers are so tightly knit. However, we're trying to help and support that dual career partner as their own unique person. We need to make sure that they're going to land in a place where they're going to be successful, where they're going to feel welcomed, where they have a real opportunity for career and personal growth. And so, for those very reasons, they need to be viewed as completely separate individuals. But I think that it's that intermeshing of the two individuals that makes it particularly challenging. And there are lots of feelings with that, right? Like the way we might feel about our partner is different than you might feel about a graduate student you work with or a colleague that you work with. Your relationship is so different and so tight that the way you feel about their experience in the dual career process is going to really reflect how you feel about that institution overall. And so if it's not a positive experience, it's going to greatly maybe impact how you feel about the institution and your value within that institution. And so it's really important that everybody in this process is treated with respect and given as much transparency and communication as possible so that they can, again, make these difficult, informed decisions. Um, I think one of the misconceptions about dual career is that there's one thing that means success, right? Like that one thing might be the partner gets a job and this solves everybody's problem. So the partner has a job. Now all the problems are solved. Um, but maybe not, right? Maybe it's not the right job for them. Maybe the couple didn't want to come to the institution in the first place because there are other factors in play. And so I would argue that one thing that a lot of um, partners, as well as maybe some of my on-campus clients don't think about, is that sometimes success looks different in different situations. Success could be that that couple doesn't come because they are ultimately not going to be satisfied with the options available. And as an institution, we don't want to make a huge investment in that. We want them to know what the options are and then decide whether or not that's going to work for them and for their family.
Yeah, fit, right? I think
Fit.
we don't talk about fit
Absolutely.
enough. So yeah, that's a really fantastic insight. So talking about kind of some of the trends that are emerging in higher ed right
Mhm.
now, are there any trends that you're seeing on the dual career side with any, I don't know, maybe turnover in certain areas, or are there more dual career partners that are looking for services or less, or anything that's kind of bubbling up?
I think one factor, of course, is always going to be that we deal with a lot of recruitment, dual career partners. And so, as recruitment may vary at an institution, so will the number of dual career partners. At my institution, we also work with partners that may be involved in retention situations. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be active retention, it can be more passive retention. We want the couple to stay and feel valued and have that sense of belonging. And so there can be fluctuations between recruitment and retention, not only across the course of the academic year, but I think that when you look at broader patterns in hiring in higher ed, that's definitely affects the overall recruitment retention balance at our institution. Now, you mentioned that partners might have different expectations, and part of that is because there is not necessarily a unified way dual career happens across the country. So one thing I've learned working with HERC and with our dual career colleagues is that dual career programs can really vary. What's offered, who can be served, can really vary. And so sometimes couples feel like they're not sure what to expect. And so that can also impact what they get because they don't know what questions to ask or when and how to ask them. And in times when there's a lot of volatility in higher ed, I would suggest that it's always beneficial if you are a partner or if you're engaged in a search process. It's good to advocate for yourself and to ask questions and to speak up and find out what is possible and what is available to help support your search.
So if somebody is on the job market and they're in need of dual career services, where do they find those? When do they reach out? What should they know?
Those are really sometimes the most challenging questions when there are two people. I think the somewhat negative spin on this, and it used to be called the two body problem. That sounds super negative, but I would like to put a positive spin on things and say that um, if you and your partner are going to be going on a job search in higher ed, it's typically never too early to bring up or to do some research about dual career. There's not a lot of uniformity across institutions in how their dual career programs are structured. So Michigan sits in the Big Ten, and across the Big Ten, there are lots of different models for how dual career works and who's included and what services can be provided. So if you are offered an interview at an institution, I'd encourage you to do a little bit of research. Take a look and see if you can find web pages or online resources that can tell you more about their program. I would also direct you to HERC. There is a list on the main website that can tell you which institutions members have dual career programs, and that can be helpful as you're thinking about which institutions to apply for. But if you've been asked to interview and you're not sure, I think advice that I would give you is that it's okay to ask about dual career services. Many early career professionals are afraid to ask those questions because they're concerned that it'll impact their opportunity during the interview process. It should not. And many of the more seasoned, more experienced individuals will ask those questions earlier. And so the more time a dual career program has to work with your partner, the more likely we are to be able to give you sufficient information so you can be making those informed decisions. And so it's really critical to give us enough time. If you're about to sign and you've got 24 hours left before that signing deadline, it's so late in the process, not a lot can be done. So you have to give the institution time to work with both of you. And so for that, I suggest that it's really important that both partners, whether the dual career partner is looking for an academic position or a non-academic position, have their materials ready for a job search. Your partner is going to need to have a resume or CV prepared. It would be a good idea to have some templates ready for cover letters, or research or teaching statements or other materials, portfolio, whatever would be needed and appropriate for their career search. They really need to have that in place because sometimes when we hit go on dual career, things can move very quickly. And you want answers. You're anxious. You want to know what's possible. And so to help expedite that whole process, it's really important that both partners have their materials primed and ready to go.
It's fantastic. I also want to say for anybody watching or listening, if you are a HR professional, a dual career professional, join us for dual career dialogues. We have some really great discussions, and it's a really good way to kind of find out what different institutions are doing because there is such a disparity between the types of programming, who it serves. So we are very welcoming to people kind of at every stage of the development of their dual career program. Is there anything that if you could impart any bit of knowledge to people who are looking at higher ed as an option, what would it be?
I think higher ed is much broader than most people think. I think for the average person, when you say, oh, working in higher ed, their mind immediately goes to some form of classroom teaching or potentially research. But higher ed hires in so many different areas well beyond those two. I think people don't fully appreciate the scope of opportunity within higher ed, whether that's in IT, whether that's in food services, whether that's in different kinds of administrative or project management roles, whether that's in different types of medical or professional care roles. There's such a diversity of opportunity on a campus. I find that many of my partners always want to start looking at Michigan first and then branch out. Now, of course, that doesn't work for everybody. If you're a realtor or K to 12 teacher or something, it's going to be a little harder to think about where you might fit. But I will also say that I find that for many of my partners, they use the time of transition that a move to a new location brings to really rethink their career. And I get a lot of people that are interested in career shifting or exploring new career avenues. Let's be realistic, that doesn't always work, or it can prolong the search process. But I totally get it. When you come to a new place, it kind of feels like maybe it's time to reset the clock. And it's an opportunity to re-examine what you've achieved in your career, maybe where you see yourself going, and think about if there are ways that you can get there, whether that's through additional education, through exploring a new career opportunity, or really just starting to do some of that research to understand whether or not it could be a fit. I find that a lot of people use a move as that time to hit the reset button.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alicia, for being part of today's episode. If you are exploring, starting, or growing a career in higher education, visit hercjobs.org for job opportunities and career resources to support your next move. Join us next time on Let's Talk Higher Ed Careers for more real stories and practical advice from across the higher ed community. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.